you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kusa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations. America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all in Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get mad. So nefarious how they don't want my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regret, we only facing the threat.
This is the sound of Eric Malcolm.
It's a cut on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threat. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking straight, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine, you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine, you done. They show no love for the queen. Why they hating on me?
All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Okay, so with that all being said, let's get ready to get into it. Hold on just a second. I'm uploading one more video clip. Okay, here we go. Let me close out these tabs. All right. So, hey, Juju, Nessa G is in the house. Queen Sam, Perplex is here. All right, let's get into it, Herman. Christopher Perkins is in the house. All right, Pearly, I see you, beloved. Jeff ATL. Okay, Claudette, Andrea. Let's get into it, Terry Hitton. Joy is here. All right. Everybody hit that like button. Thank you in advance. Shout out to all of my moderators. Big shout out to my moderators because y'all know they stay putting in work. And shout out to all of my loyal royals. Now, with that all being said, before we get started, let's have a brief word from my sponsor at 12 Tribes. Here we go.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes. You can purchase 12 Tribes hair oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Crafts, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. And she sells beard oil as well. Okay, so let's get into it because yesterday, Letitia James was indicted. We all knew it was coming. This is what we talked about yesterday. Okay, we talked about vindictive prosecution, and that's absolutely what Trump's chosen to engage in. He's going after his political rivals, just as he promised he would, and just as Kamala warned us that he would. So it's safe to assume he got James Comey, now Letitia James, so it's safe to assume that Lisa Cook and Adam Schiff are next. Okay, and so let's talk about it because Letitia James has come out and responded, and also we have the indictment. It's only 5 pages, and that's because it's clearly a stretch, okay? It is clearly a stretch, beloveds. All bogus charges. All right. And so anyway, like I said, it's only 5 pages. And basically, Letitia A. James was a resident of Brooklyn, New York, and the borrower of her Fannie Mae-backed mortgage loan for the property located at 3121 Perone Avenue, Norfolk, Virginia. So basically, we'll just cut through the chase. What she did was she obtained a loan from OVM Financial, also known as Old Virginia Mortgage, okay, / Annie Mae. Now, she got this loan, and so what they're saying is that she basically lied when she was purchasing a property. She indicated that it would be used as her second home, and maybe it was. And then maybe later she decided to rent it out, because they say that she rented it out to a 3-member family. Okay. And so the fact that she said it was for a second property, but in fact it was a rental property, they said that put the bank in a bind and put them at risk, because basically, well, this, just in my opinion, now they say that, it's less likely for a first or second home mortgage to be defaulted on. Okay. They say that usually rental properties are the ones that are defaulted on. So they said she put the bank at risk. But like I said, she could have bought the property as a second property, then later on decided to rent it out. For all they know, but Trump is desperate and grasping at straws. And then also, they say that she straightened all of that out. So even if that is what she said, she supposedly got it all straightened out. And these people really don't want to prosecute this, but it is Lindsay Halligan, who is a Trump loyalist, and save for Trump being attracted to her looks, she wouldn't even have been in a place to make that sort of decision. Okay, and so basically, they say also, and here's the thing, it is also ridiculous, because basically they say that by lying and saying that it was a second home, that she really got a deal, because she got 3%, okay, in interest. They charge a 3% interest rather than 3.83%, which is so crazy, because that's only a saving of $18,000 in a 30-year time frame. Okay, somebody please make that make sense. So Trump wants us to think that this lady, who's highly intelligent, I'm sure, okay, who's been doing her job. Now, I don't care for Letitia James, don't get me wrong, but what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, okay? Now, here's the thing. This is definitely malicious prosecution, in my opinion. So basically, he wants us to think that this woman did all of this fraud, okay, told lies, committed whole mortgage fraud, just so she could save $18,000 over 30 years. That's not even $1,000 a year. Are you all paying attention to how dumb this all is? Okay. I find it all so interesting. Anyway, I'm going to go over the last part of this. Now, count 1. The allegations in paragraph 1 through 12 are realleged and incorporated herein. From on or about August the 7th of 2020 through at least January of 2024 in the Eastern District of Virginia and elsewhere, the defendant, Letitia A. James, did knowingly execute and attempt to execute a scheme, okay, an artifice to defraud OVM Financial and First Savings Bank financial institutions, and to obtain monies, funds, and credits owned by and under the custody and control of OVM Financial and First Savings Bank by means of false and fraudulent pretenses, representations, and promises. The scheme involved falsely representing the Perone Company or property as a secondary residence to obtain favorable mortgage terms, while using it as an investment property with no intended or actual personal occupancy or use by her. This is all so petty. Do you all hear this? This is all so darn petty and ridiculous. Clearly a stretch. Now, from on or about July the 28th of 2020 through at least August 31st of 2020 in the Eastern District of Virginia and elsewhere, the defendant, Letitia A. James, did knowingly make and cause to be made false statements and reports for the purpose of influencing the action of OVM Financial, a Fannie Mae-backed lender, upon an application for a loan, in that James represented and affirmed in uniform residential loan applications, and related documents that the Perron property would be used as a secondary residence, when in truth and fact, as James then knew, the property was intended and used as an investment property with no intended or actual personal occupancy or use by her. Now, if any of the property described above as a result or any act or omission of the defendant cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third party, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, has been commingled with other property which cannot be divided without difficulty, the United States shall be entitled to forfeiture of substitute property pursuant to Title 21 USC Statute 853B. Okay, so they have a forfeiture notice. All right, and this is signed by Lindsay Halligan, United States Attorney. All right, for the state of Virginia. So y'all heard that. So what do you all have to say about it all? Edward said this is karma. She ran her campaign on putting Trump in jail. Well, we know it's karma for her from Trump, but it's not universal karma, okay? Because Trump, in fact, belongs in jail, beloved. He belongs in jail, all right? That's just what it is. And hopefully he'll be going there soon. Now, anyway, let's get into it because, like I said, she responded.
Hey, everyone, some breaking news for you. A federal grand jury has just brought down yet another indictment of yet another Trump foe. This time it's New York Democratic Attorney General Letitia James, who you might remember in 2022, she brought charges of financial fraud against Donald Trump successfully. President Trump forced the resignation of the acting U.S. Attorney, Eric Siebert, because he was not bringing criminal charges against specifically, as Trump acknowledged in a Truth Social post that he, according to the Wall Street Journal, accidentally posted publicly. He meant it to be a private message to the Attorney General Pam Bondi, but he said he was frustrated that there were not being criminal charges brought against FBI Director James Comey, Letitia James, and Democratic Senator Adam Schiff. And since then, he installed his loyalist, Lindsay Halligan. She has brought criminal charges and indicted James Comey. And then today, of course, Letitia James. We should also note that in the intervening time, there was an assistant U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, a guy named Michael Ben-Ari, who was prosecuting a terrorist named Jafar. And he was fired because some MAGA person alleged on Twitter that he was opposed to the Comey indictment. There's no evidence of that. But in any case, Michael Ben-Ari wrote a public letter in which he said that the current Justice Department leadership is more focused on going after and prosecuting Trump's perceived political enemies than they are in protecting the American people. Quite an indictment. We are in a real uncharted waters type situation here with the president so openly calling for the prosecution of his political enemies and his handpicked loyalist prosecutors following his orders. It is truly shocking.
Yeah, it actually is shocking that they're following his orders when he's having them commit actual crimes. Okay, malicious prosecution, vindictive prosecution. Okay, this is all illegal. These people should lose their licenses to practice. Okay, I don't care if Trump told them to do it. There's something called moral and ethics, and clearly they have none, or they're lacking in that department. Now let's hear from Letitia James.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost. The president's actions are a grave violation of our constitutional order and have drawn sharp criticism from members of both parties. His decision to fire a United States attorney who refused to bring charges against me and replace them with someone who is blindly loyal not to the law, but to the president is antithetical to the bedrock principles of our country. This is the time for leaders on both sides of the aisle to speak out against this blatant perversion of our system of justice. I stand strongly behind my office's litigation against the Trump Organization. We conducted a 2-year investigation based on the facts and evidence, not politics. Judges have upheld the trial court's finding that Donald Trump, his company, and his 2 sons are liable for fraud. I'm a proud woman of faith, and I know that faith and fear cannot share the same space. And so today, I'm not fearful. I'm fearless. And as my faith teaches me, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. We will fight these baseless charges aggressively, and my office will continue to fiercely protect New Yorkers and their rights. And I will continue to do my job.
Well, you all heard that? Okay, you all heard that? No, she didn't quote the scripture. She said, no weapon formed against her shall prosper, Trump. Did you hear that? And also, by the way, Elizabeth Usi, who is the Major Crimes Unit Prosecutor Chief, has no plans on prosecuting the case. Okay? She had no plans on prosecuting the case because it's all just a farce. And everybody knows that except for Trump. Trump actually knows it too. He just thinks that he's going to, bring these charges against this woman. But like I said, and here's the sad thing. Okay, there's protections against prosecutors. They have broad immunity, making it very difficult to sue them for actions that are within the scope of their duties. Okay, just like the president. I want y'all to pay attention. But however, Letitia James, James Comey, and Adam Schiff and Lisa Cook, after they get those 2, because they're coming for them next, they could absolutely sue them, in civil court for damages that resulted from this, damaging their reputation, unjustified, malicious, and making them have to come out of the pocket and pay money, public humiliation, all of this. Okay, bringing forth a baseless criminal prosecution. Okay, not to mention, like I said, it's illegal. Malicious prosecuting is illegal. All right, these people need to be locked up. I don't care what Trump told them. And now let's talk about what the legal experts are saying as it pertains to Letitia James's indictment. Okay, everyone, please like and share. But here's the funny thing. While Trump, actually, it's not funny, it's sad. While Trump's dumb arse is sitting here, busying himself with getting payback with his political rivals, the economy's in the tank. But he wants everybody to act like everything's just fine because he's making money hand over fist, him and his children, okay, with their fraudulent schemes, allegedly. All right, allegedly.
News special report. I'm Maurice Dubois. Good afternoon, everyone. New York's Attorney General Letitia James has been indicted. No charge has been listed just yet. You may recall James, a longtime opponent of President Trump, sued him back in 2022 for alleged financial fraud. Mr. Trump was found liable and ordered to pay millions of dollars. Today's indictment comes 2 weeks after James Comey was charged by a federal grand jury. Comey, the former FBI director and another Trump foe, pleaded not guilty to lying to Congress during a Senate hearing in 2020.
Let's bring in Rebecca Royfee, who is a CBS News legal contributor. Thank you so much for being with us, Rebecca. First, tell us a little bit about Letitia James. Who is she, and why are these charges being filed against her? Why is she being indicted?
So New York Attorney General Letitia James brought the civil case against for the President Donald Trump after his first term. And that case concerned questions about whether he had inflated the worth of certain properties to get kind of advantages in terms of bank loans and tax advantages in certain other loans. And so that case was long ongoing, and she ultimately won a very large verdict, which is, I think, still currently under appeal. But she has been a target of the president since then. And, to be fair, she did run for her current position on a campaign in which she suggested that going after Donald Trump was one of her priorities, which was largely considered by legal experts at the time fairly inappropriate.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? So today I have this baseball jersey here, and I'm really excited to share this product with all of you because it is the ideal baseball jersey for me. The reason
A CBS News special report. I'm Maurice.
Of this indictment. Why is that significant?
It is extremely significant. This is the same district that brought the charges against Jim Comey just recently. And what happened was there was a U.S. attorney in that jurisdiction who was a Trump appointee who had, very much given to his career to the priorities of the Trump administration, but refused to bring those charges against James Comey. He was summarily fired after that. And at that point, President Trump put in place Lindsay Halligan, who was his personal attorney, has no experience in criminal practice, and was, I believe, an insurance attorney, and whom he had met at one point in Mar-a-Lago. And, that raised a lot of red flags at the time. The career prosecutors did not want to bring that case against James Comey, and neither did the U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert, who was subsequently fired. And so, Lindsay Halligan brought the charges against James Comey shortly after that Truth Social post that he had put up that said that he demanded the indictment of, a whole list of his enemies, including Letitia James, James Comey, and Adam Schiff. And so it looks like she is now currently doing his bidding, and whether that's happening or not, it certainly has that appearance given the sequence of events.
Now, an indictment is one thing, formal charges are another, and actually conviction is a whole nother thing. How likely is that going to happen with Letitia James, do you think?
Right. So we do not know. I haven't seen the indictment. I don't know the strength of the charges. She was being investigated for insurance fraud having to do with a Virginia property that she was buying for her niece, that she suggested apparently on the application, or at one point, that it was going to be her primary residence. Her lawyers have claimed subsequently that she quickly corrected that. And so if that's the basis for the charge of bank fraud, then that may or may not have significant proof that she committed this crime. But we will see, because as you say, bringing an indictment, one only needs a very low threshold of probable cause. And in order to get a conviction, you need proof beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high standard. And yet to be seen. There will also be motions, as there will be in the James Comey case, I'm sure.
All right, selective prosecution. We all know what time it is. At the end of the day, well, good luck to her with that, because I really don't care for Letitia James, as I said, or James Comey, or Adam Schiff. But at the end of the day, Trump just needs to be called out on his BS, because that's exactly what it is. Now, meanwhile, while he has all of this going on, let's talk about how the federal shutdown is affecting the economy. Okay, let's get into it. So let's take a look at long-range possible economic effects. So number one, a couple of days, okay, financial markets may experience some fluctuation, but likely won't be significant if funding is restored before too long. Workers will get paid back, and ideally, there's not much of an economic lag. But then the second thing is it could be a longer term. Now, federal workers get furloughed, and the federal government delays some spending during the shutdown. But when the funding comes back, workers go back to their jobs and collect back pay, and the government belatedly spends the money that it withheld. Okay, it's pretty much just a wash. Or the third, which is very long term. Now, if there are significant disruptions to sectors like air travel due to shutdown related circumstances, like the security screeners and air traffic controllers who called out sick during 2018 and 2019 during the shutdown, or the 2018 through 2019 shutdown, that can mean more trouble for industries. But even in that 35-day shutdown, the longest in U.S. history, mind you, the Congressional Budget Office estimates that 0.02% was shaved off 2019 U.S. gross domestic product, the nation's output of goods and services. Now, also, Trump has threatened to permanently eliminate, mind you, thousands of government jobs during this shutdown. And so if that happens, and there's going to be new tranches of people that are immediately out of work, and that can really upset, the economy, which is already precarious. Okay. And we don't know yet if the layoffs are actually going to happen, but they have said that they would. But here's the thing that I find interesting. Everyone, please like and share. What I find interesting is that there's a report that says nearly 22 states are nearing recession. Let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please. Like and share. Thank you in advance. Here we go. All right. You all see that? So, as I said, they're saying nearly 22 states, okay, economies are in a near recession. Alarming report finds this. So 22 U.S. states are either on the brink of an economic recession or already in one. And this is according to a new analysis from Moody's Analytics. All right. Now, they say Moody's chief economist Mark Zandi shared the findings, saying that states making up nearly a third of the national gross domestic product are either in or at high risk for recession, with another third just holding steady and remaining third growing. Now, state level data makes it clear why the U.S. economy is on the edge of recession. Okay, Zandi noted that the states experiencing recessions are spread across the country, but the area surrounding Washington, D.C. stands out in particular due to government job cuts and the potential impact of the federal government shutdown. They say southern states are generally the strongest, but their growth is slowing. Now, California and New York, which together account for over a fifth of U.S. GDP, are holding their own, and their stability is crucial for the national economy to avoid a downturn. So the new report follows concerning data about the national economy with downward revisions to recent job growth numbers, raising questions about the strength of the labor market. Now, the country added a paltry average of 27,000 new jobs monthly from May through August, according to the latest available Labor Department data. With the government shutdown in effect, the Labor Department did not issue a jobs report for September as scheduled, leaving customers, investors, and policymakers flying blind during a period of economic uncertainty. Now, payroll data from ADP showed that private employers actually shed 32,000 jobs in September. However, the ADP report is not as comprehensive as the monthly government reports. Now, for the housing market, a national economic downturn would likely deliver lower mortgage rates, but that would benefit only home buyers who felt confident their jobs and income would not be affected by the recession. Meanwhile, state-level economic slowdowns have the potential to affect their housing markets if fewer people are working and incomes suffer. Now, whether nationwide or localized recessions are bad for housing markets. Okay, this is what Realtor.com senior economist Jake Krimmel said, saying that the direct effects of an economic slowdown are higher unemployment, less hiring, and lower wages. All the killers for would-be home buyers and all warning signs for current homeowners trying to make mortgage payments. Now, the indirect effects of a recession also have housing market implications, says Krimmel, by injecting higher uncertainty about the future, which can have knock-on effects for home prices and for sales. Now, I want you all to think about this, because let's not forget how all of these some of these conglomerates, these big companies and stuff, are trying to purchase up a lot of the real estate. Okay, it's almost like they don't want people to privately own homes. Okay, it's like they want these government entities, or not government entities, but these corporate entities to own everything. Remember how I told you JP Morgan Chase was purchasing up all of these properties here in Atlanta? Okay, we know that BlackRock owns so many of the properties in the United States. Okay. Now, with that all being said, they say the silver lining in the case of Moody's projections is that the states at highest risk, especially those located in the Northwest, happen to have the strongest housing markets right now. Meanwhile, states with the softest housing markets, as measured by weak price growth and slow-moving inventory, such as Texas, Florida, and Arizona, are flagged by Moody's as having still expanding economies, which could limit the downturn in housing there. Now, as long as local economic fundamentals and housing markets don't weaken simultaneously, a major economic downturn is unlikely, according to Krimmel. So what do you all have to say about all of this? Okay, this is bad for all of us, but yet Trump is more concerned about his political rivals being punished and all of that than trying to fix the economy. And then sitting here just gaslighting everybody, acting like everything's all peaches and cream and all this money's coming in and that he's acquired $17 trillion for the United States, when the fact of the matter is the debt for the United States is $37 trillion. Okay. And the tariffs were a disaster. And everybody is complaining. Well, most people at least are complaining, okay, about needing a job, about the high price of groceries and other things at the end of the day. So what do you all think? Perplex said we cooked. Nothing more I can say, Queen. Okay. Andrea said eating at McDonald's. Speaking about McDonald's, you know, I was supposed to cover a story telling you all how they were boycotting McDonald's or were planning to because the Black franchise owners were complaining about unfair treatment. Maybe we'll talk about that later, okay, if I come back today. So anyway, amongst other things. But anyway, I just find it interesting. Like I said, 22 states about to be in a whole recession. But this is what Trump has time to worry about. And then he's steady messing up trade deals and all kinds of things with his foolishness and just ticking off people, left and right. Okay, so now with that all being said, let's continue because, you know, there's some more bad news for Trump. He might think it's good news that he's getting his political rivals indicted one by one, okay, with his nefarious self. But what I find interesting is the fact that he's not going to win that Nobel Peace Prize that he so desperately wanted and almost begged for, if you ask me. Okay, he literally was almost begging for it, wouldn't you say? I find it all so interesting. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because Trump's not the winner, which we already knew. So the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize has been awarded to Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, bypassing U.S. President Donald Trump, despite mounting speculation that his recent diplomatic efforts might earn him the honor. Bless his little heart. The decision comes amid heightened global attention on Trump's role in the brokering of multiple ceasefires, including a landmark agreement between Israel and Hamas, which was confirmed just as the Nobel announcement was made. Oh, he tried. He really tried. Trump, you was such a devil. Why would he think that anyone would ever want to give him the honor of having a Nobel Peace Prize? Okay, when he sows so much discord and division. Okay, that's what he does. He's just a low down, dirty devil. Now, the announcement coincided with what is shaping up to be Trump's crowning achievement in this field, a peace deal that ends the current war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas, and if the fragile agreement survives its tense early phases, could eventually help solve the Middle East's most intractable problem, a source of death and destruction for decades. Maria Corina Machado received the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize for her work advancing democracy in Venezuela. The Nobel Committee praised Machado as a brave and committed champion of peace who continues her activism despite threats from the Maduro regime. Now, Trump was widely, now Maduro is the man who just made himself president. They said he didn't even win. He just took over the office, and there's supposedly a whole cartel who's involved in drug smuggling and human trafficking too, or human trafficking as well. Now, with that all being said, goes on to say that she's been receiving threats from his regime. So Trump was widely rumored to be a contender for the prize, with several governments reportedly submitting nominations. White House Communications Director Steve Cheung criticized the decision, saying the committee places politics over peace. Trump claims credit for ending multiple international conflicts in 2025, including flare-ups between Israel and Iran, Thailand and Cambodia, and India and Pakistan. India and Pakistan already told us Trump's a whole lie, okay? And it's safe to say that he likely is lying about Thailand and Cambodia too. Just my opinion. Now, but remember, the last time I accused him of lying about those African countries, he actually was telling the truth. So, the Nobel Committee's final deliberations occurred before the Israel-Hamas ceasefire was officially confirmed. The timing of the announcement coinciding with the Gaza ceasefire has fueled debate over whether Trump's efforts were overlooked. No, they didn't overlook him. They just got sick of him begging, okay, and bragging about himself and boasting about what he was doing and how he was doing it, and basically suggesting to them that he win the prize. Okay, he should have waited to see what they had to say rather than just being so thirsty and clearly desperate. Okay, it was just hard to watch. So anyway, Senator Rick Scott praises Mikado's Nobel Peace Prize win as a symbol of democratic courage. U.S. Senator Rick Scott has publicly celebrated Maria Corina Machado's Nobel Peace Prize, calling her a hero and a steadfast advocate for democracy in Venezuela. In a social media post, Scott expressed admiration for Machado's bravery in confronting President Nicolas Maduro's regime, which he described as a thuggish dictatorship. Now, that's interesting right there. A thuggish dictatorship, because that reminds me of Trump. That reminds me of Trump. And it's interesting because Trump had so much to say about Maduro. And they both seem to be just alike. What do y'all think? Okay, what do y'all think? I absolutely think so. So the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, Venezuelan opposition figure Maria Corina Machado, has previously praised Donald Trump for fighting against the regime of her country's president, Nicolas Maduro. Now, the Nobel Prize Committee announced Friday that Machado won the prestigious award for promoting democratic rights in the South American country where Maduro claimed an election victory, which was disputed internationally, not just locally. Okay, since Trump's reelection, Machado has vigorously described the U.S. president as the biggest opportunity we've ever had for regime change, and in a letter expressed her deepest gratitude to the Trump administration. Okay, well, I want y'all to hear that. Don't y'all find that interesting and ironic at the same time? You see, Trump going in on Maduro was likely, part of his efforts to try to win that Nobel Peace Prize, and acting like he's ending all the wars and solving all the conflict around the globe and all of that, and being such a proponent of peace and all that. And so he likely thought that was going to help him get him a little bit closer. But actually, a woman from the same country won the Nobel Peace Prize. Angie said embarrassing. I absolutely love it. Claudette said all of this for nothing. I know, right? Nene said he's blowing boats out of the water. Said he's blowing boats out of the water without any evidence of drug trafficking, and he wants a peace prize? Exactly. And he still has yet to show us any proof that what he did was legitimate. Okay? He still has shown no proof whatsoever. All right? Trump needs to sit down somewhere. The man's insane. It's safe to say that the man's insane. Okay, D Major says someone should check for ketchup on the walls. Okay? Ooh, honey, I know he's crying in the car. Thank you for your insight to the topic, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, with that all being said, let's talk about Pritzker. Okay? Because Trump said Pritzker was scared, called the man a coward.
We begin tonight in Chicago, where National Guard troops are mobilizing on the outskirts of that city. The governor of the state of Illinois does not want them there, nor does the mayor of Chicago. The president of the United States today called for those two men to be jailed. Quote, Chicago mayor should be in jail for failing to protect ICE officers. Governor Pritzker also. And on a day when Trump's former FBI director was being arraigned in a Virginia courthouse, talk like this should probably be taken quite seriously.
These leaders in these local cities, along with Pritzker and Johnson, ignore what's going on, or, sir, they're helping Antifa cover it up?
I think actually they're petrified. Their families live there, everything else. I actually think they're scared. Pritzker was a failure in his family. They threw him out of the family business. Guy's a loser. But you know what? I believe they're scared. They're actually frightened for their lives.
For his part, Governor Pritzker.
Did you hear that? Did you all hear that? Okay, Shabaka said Big Orange wannabe bully. Okay, I know, right? He said, I think they're actually in fear for their lives. Why, Trump? Why do they need to be fearful for their lives? Is their house going to mysteriously explode? Okay, like Judge Goodstein's? I have questions. Y'all heard that? He said they're in fear for their lives. Why should they be fearful, Trump? What do they have to fear? Huh? Something strange going to happen to them? Are they going to have to find themselves awakened by a loud bang in the midst of the night and have to jump out of their beds and jump out of an open window and flee to boats waiting for them, Trump, while their house burns to the literal ground? I have so many questions.
Shakur does not appear to be petrified.
This is a convicted felon.
Hold on. I had to go back to that because I interrupted. I want you all to hear what the news reporter says after Trump says they're cowards or says Pritzker's scared. Hold on.
You know what? I believe they're scared. They're actually frightened for their lives.
For his part, Governor Pritzker does not appear to be petrified.
This is a convicted felon. I mean, think about that, who's threatening to jail me. I got to say, this guy's unhinged. He's insecure. He's a wannabe dictator. And there's one thing I really want to say to Donald Trump. If you come for my people, you come through me. So come and get me.
That kind of posture from the governor is pretty important at a time like this, because this is all happening just a week after the president of the United States assembled the 800 highest-ranking commanders of the U.S. Armed Forces and told them to be prepared to fight the enemy within.
And for those of you who don't know who the enemy within is, it's his own people. He's telling the military to be prepared to fight their own people. That's how unhinged this man is. Clearly mental insanity.
We should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military, National Guard, but military. Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city. It's the enemy from within, and we have to handle it before it gets out of control.
What we've been seeing in Chicago already from ICE and other federal agents sure does look like an extension of that project. It feels like an attempted federal occupation, with images like this shared by a reporter with the Chicago Tribune of a federal agent pointing a weapon out of the car window at a woman who was filming them. Last Friday, we saw folks in a residential neighborhood, in the middle of the day, bright sunshine, get tear gassed. The chemical agent was used just a block away from an elementary school during a school day. Across social media, there is video after video after video of people being detained, often violently by federal agents, while onlookers yell at them. Like this video on your screen of Border Patrol trying to forcibly restrain a man while onlookers attempt to intervene. In one instance, a Democratic congressional candidate was violently thrown to the ground by ICE. You see that there? For exercising her constitutional right to protest the agency's presence in her city. Just last month, a pastor was shot in the head with what appears to be a kind of pepper ball projectile while speaking outside an ICE detention facility in the Chicago suburb of Broadview. I want to warn you, some viewers may find the video of that incident upsetting.
Hey, it's Tish James. And guess what? Donald Trump is mentioning me by name.
The Department of Homeland Security says those, quote, agitators were blocking an ICE vehicle and throwing bottles. In his own words, that man, Reverend David Black, said, quote, I told them there was still time to repent, believe the good news, and turn from their wicked ways. That's when they opened fire. And again, this is all just the beginning. Today, NBC News is reporting the White House is now holding serious discussions about invoking the Insurrection Act of 1807, a law that the White House believes would allow Trump to marshal federal troops to act as law enforcement agents in our cities without nearly as many legal constraints over how those troops could operate. It would be, I think, akin to a kind of declaration of war against the people of this country with no actual legitimate justification. There is no insurrection.
Isn't this what I told you all yesterday, beloveds? Isn't this exactly what I told you all yesterday? Okay, this man's launching a war against his own citizens. Okay, I told you all, it looks like civil war is coming at the end of the day. And like he just said, the reporter said there's no insurrection. I told you all, in order for him to, enact what am I saying here? In order for him to invoke the Insurrection Act, there's supposed to be either an insurrection, civil disorder, okay? Some sort of discord has to be upon the land. There has to be like some sort of danger for him to do this. And he has really no reason, okay? He really has no legit reason to be doing this. Trump's just doing whatever he wants to do, and it's really sad.
One person close to the White House telling NBC the debate over the Insurrection Act is working its way up an escalatory ladder. What we are seeing in Chicago sure looks like the opening move in a larger vision for this country, where the leader consolidates power to harness state, local, and federal police in cooperation with the U.S. military, which is trained to defend America from foreign threats and instead unleashes them against Americans.
I see the guns and that in this room. You are unleashed. The handcuffs that you're carrying, they're not on you anymore. They're on.
Now that's Stephen Miller talking, for those of you who don't know. Stephen Miller, the wanton supremacist.
Other criminals. And whatever you need to get it done, we're going to get it done. State, local, federal, on President Trump's promise, we are going to get it done.
The pretext in all of this has been fighting criminals. But Stephen Miller and Donald Trump want to treat Americans who do not support their agenda like enemies, like people the U.S. is engaged in war against. And I've got to say, the response we're seeing against that vision in cities like Chicago is really actually inspiring, emboldening. I mean, despite being far less willing to weigh into American politics than his predecessor, the new Pope, Pope Leo, who is from Chicago, is calling out Trump's overreach. In remarks to bishops visiting him at the Vatican today, the Holy Father urged them to use the pulpit to speak out against Trump's draconian immigration policies. This administration has decisively lost the moral high ground on this issue. People at a deep level understand that what they are seeing in Chicago is wrong. They know that they are free citizens of a free country that we spent hundreds of years at trying to achieve and perfect. They know they have a right to film ICE and even to peacefully, verbally challenge ICE. They have a right to protest, to stand outside detention centers, to try and shame people that are committing what they believe to be grave injustices. And the fact that they are continuing to do that, even in the face of this onslaught, is a testament to the fact that Americans will not be intimidated. Just like a certain Chicago delivery cyclist outmaneuvered ICE last week.
Look at him go. Oh, I didn't mean to. Hold on. Hold on. I didn't mean to do that.
Exactly 4 months to the day that you and I talked on the streets of LA after that first raid in downtown Los Angeles brought hundreds, if not thousands, of people to the streets.
Now, let me say this. The dude that was on the bike running from them, that was hilarious. Okay, so last week, he went up to them and he said something like F Trump. I think he said something like that. He said F Trump, or he said something about Trump. And then they went to chase him and he took off. I'm glad he got away.
It feels like deja vu. And I say that because this is a jubilant atmosphere. These are people who do not and will not tolerate federal troops, whether they are highly kitted up Border Patrol agents or members of the National Guard on the streets of Chicago. You know this better than anybody. Tonight is a critical playoff game for the Chicago Cubs. A lot of these people could be doing something else, sitting in a bar, watching television. They're out here because most of them say they're here to protect democracy. I've not seen anything like this in Chicago.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it right there. Now, with that all being said, they are absolutely doing a lot out there. They're just doing too much. People are getting injured and everything. And those non-lethal bullets can do a whole lot of damage. Like somebody literally got their eye put out by that. Somebody else was blinded from the shards. And it's just all kinds of stuff. I'm not saying like this during this situation, but previously these things have happened. But also there was a woman that was shot. Okay, and ICE lied about it. They lied on this woman after they shot her. Okay, so let's get into it. Likes up, everyone. Please like and share. Donald Trump is putting people's lives in danger. He's talking about cleaning up the cities and he's talking about stopping crime, but actually, he's contributing to a whole lot more problems than he's fixing. Okay, which is no surprise.
They said she drove towards officers. So it turns out the entire story that ICE concocted about this woman who they shot, who was 30 years old, they said she drove towards officers, and that did not happen. And Jillian Brockle, who is an amazing person to follow on Blue Sky, she wrote that, quote, 10 cars rammed ICE. That was the claim. Truth, no cars rammed ICE. Claim, she boxed ICE in. Truth, ICE boxed her in. Claim, she shot a rifle at ICE. Truth, she did not have a rifle. Claim, ICE returned fire. Truth, only ICE fired. Quote, she drove herself to the hospital. Truth, paramedics found her. Clearly, this is the sign of what I would say is someone who didn't really do anything wrong and got shot by ICE. And fortunately, the judge has ordered both her and Anthony Ruiz to be released pending their trial on Monday.
Just a darn shame. So much chaos and confusion. Okay. Look at this picture here and see how they have somebody down on the ground pummeling this person. See the smoke from the tear gas. So anyway, now here's what they report. Body camera video of a Border Patrol agent involved in the shooting of a woman who was allegedly chasing agents in Brighton Park over the weekend shows an officer saying, "Do something, bitch," before pulling over and shooting the woman 5 times. That's what the woman's attorney said. Do y'all hear this? Now, they were acting like the woman was putting them in danger, but the body cam video clearly shows him saying, "Do something, bitch," and then shooting her 5 times. Now, the video appears to contradict the government's allegation that Miramar Martinez, age 30, drove toward officers before one of them opened fire on her late Saturday morning on Kedzie Avenue near 39th Street. Her attorney, Christopher Parente, said at a detention hearing at the Dirkskin Federal Courthouse. Now, U.S. District Judge Heather McShane denied a request by the federal government to detain Martinez and Anthony Ian Santos Ruiz, age 21, pending trial. Okay, Martinez and Ruiz, who wore orange jumpsuits for the detention hearing, were charged Sunday with felony assault of a federal officer. Now, the judge said, "It is a miracle to me that no one was more seriously injured in the incident in which Martinez and Ruiz allegedly followed agents for more than 20 minutes as they drove after conducting an operation in Oak Lawn." But she said the defendant's lack of criminal history and extensive family and community ties compelled her to release them pending trial. Now, according to the 8-page criminal complaint, prosecutors say Martinez and Ruiz were driving separate vehicles in a convoy that was following agents, disobeying traffic signals, and driving aggressively to chase the federal vehicles. Now, Assistant U.S. Attorney Sean Hennessy told the judge that Martinez had been following agents for 30 minutes and Ruiz had been following agents for 20 minutes before the shooting. And as she drove, Martinez was broadcasting on Facebook Live for more than 2 minutes, Hennessy says. Now, video captures her repeatedly sounding her horn and following the vehicles, according to Hennessy. So in the charges filed Sunday, prosecutors notably did not mention a loaded gun in Martinez's car that was referenced in a previous statement by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Now, but in court on Monday, Hennessy and Martinez had a loaded firearm on the passenger side, or Hennessy said that Martinez had a loaded firearm on the passenger side of her car, but never brandished it. Martinez's attorney, Parente, said that she has a valid firearm and concealed carry license. So Parente also offered to play an agent's body camera video that shows the shooting, noting prosecutors did not show the video that he claimed disputes the government's version of the shooting. Parente said the video shows an agent turning a federal vehicle left into Martinez's vehicle, after which an agent says, "Do something, bitch." The agent then exits the vehicle and shoots at Martinez. Do y'all hear this? This is really egregious. Now, Parente said Martinez had 7 holes in her from the shooting and that agents were in such a hurry to take her into custody at the hospital that they had to return later when Martinez began bleeding from her wounds. So they didn't even let them properly treat her. Now, Parente disputed the government's claim that Martinez is a danger to the community and should be detained, saying instead that the officer who shot her was the threat. And I agree. So I think there's a danger to the community, but I don't think it's Miss Martinez, he said. Martinez is a U.S. citizen, works for a school, and has several supportive letters about her character, they said. Ruiz is also a U.S. citizen and self-employed as a DJ, his attorney, Ben Harwood, says. Now, the Saturday shooting led to a heated confrontation between federal agents and nearly 100 protesters. It was one of several protests that have flared up since President Donald Trump's administration kicked off Operation Midway Blitz last month. So meanwhile, video footage obtained by the Chicago Sun-Times appears to show 3 of the vehicles the feds say were involved in the shooting just before it happens. Now, the vehicles match descriptions and photos included in the criminal complaint, which alleges that a white Chevy Tahoe being driven by Border Patrol agents was followed by Martinez in a silver Nissan Rogue and Ruiz, who was behind the wheel of a black GMC Envoy. Now, in the video captured by security cameras at a tire shop on the 4000 block of South Kedzie, a white Tahoe can be seen being closely followed by a silver Nissan and black GMC with a Mexican flag decoration on its hood. Now, the Nissan pulls alongside the driver's side of the Tahoe and at times crosses into an oncoming traffic lane. And the GMC can be seen tailing the Tahoe closely as the cars pass the tire shop. The vehicles were then off screen. The collision and shooting is not captured on the video. Neither federal agents or federal officials nor attorneys for the 2 charged defendants commented on the video Monday night. So after the shooting, Martinez drove herself to Big Rig Oil Pros at 35th Street and California Avenue, parked her bullet-riddled Nissan SUV in the parking lot, and walked inside the shop manager, and the shop manager this is what the shop manager told the Sun-Times on Monday. So employees led a bleeding Martinez to a chair in the shop's office, according to the manager, who was not named. Now, a trucker at the shop called 911 as workers frantically grabbed blue shop towels and patches to place on her wounds. The shop manager spoke with the 911 operator and said, "Send somebody quick because this lady is bleeding profusely. I mean, it was instant puddles." Police and paramedics showed up a few minutes later, he said. As paramedics placed tourniquets on Martinez's leg and arm, a bullet fell out of her arm and onto the shop's floor. Do y'all hear this? It's absolutely egregious. She left in an ambulance. FBI investigators then arrived and placed red tape around the area where Martinez had sat and around her car, according to the manager. Now, they processed the scene for half an hour. Then the shop workers cleaned up the blood. Shortly after Monday's court hearing, the FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives announced a reward of up to $50,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of other drivers who followed and boxed in agents. An FBI statement says that about 10 vehicles were involved in the chase that Martinez and Ruiz were allegedly a part of in the 3900 block of South Kedzie. Now, the statement also describes the ramming of a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement vehicle repeatedly in the 3700 block of Kedzie, allegedly by the driver of a black Chevy Tahoe with Illinois license plates EM 6262829. That driver is still at large, according to the FBI. So what do you all think about this? Do you all think they were really trying to box them in? Or maybe they were just following them, trying to gather information or intel? What do y'all think? But for them to shoot this woman that many times, okay, she had 7 holes in her. Now they also said that they shot 5 times, so they had to have shot more than 5 times for her to have 7 holes. But they shot up the car with the lady in it and then didn't even try to give the lady help. Like, that's real crazy. Okay. You all see how Trump's putting people's lives in danger, all because he just wants to be out here doing the most with his ignorant self. Okay. Just complete ignorance. And so, anyway, with that video report, likes up, everyone, please like and share.
A major ruling against the Trump administration, a federal judge temporarily blocking the president's plan to send National Guard troops to Portland. The judge, who was appointed by Trump, saying the administration's description about chaos in Portland is simply untethered to the facts, and the president likely exceeded his authority under the Constitution, adding that the protests in Portland have not been significantly violent or disruptive and are insufficient to federalize the National Guard, writing, "This is a nation of constitutional law, not martial law." Oregon's Attorney General calling the decision a healthy check on the president's power.
As the president, you must have an actual facts based on reality,
All right, so
not
you all
social
heard
media
that.
or just your gut feeling if you want to mobilize the military.
The decision comes as tensions boil over in Chicago. ICE agents shot and injured a woman they say was armed in the southwest side of the city after federal officials say they were rammed by vehicles and boxed in by 10 cars. DHS says the incident unfolded when agents were patrolling the Chicago suburb of Broadview, alleging law enforcement were forced to deploy their weapons and fire defensive shots. The woman, DHS says, was named in a Customs and Border Protection bulletin for allegedly doxing agents online. No law enforcement officers were injured. The incident sparking more protests in the city after days of demonstrations against Trump's immigration crackdown.
They threw, tear gas all over the place, and the cops had to retreat back. None of this is normal.
Illinois Governor Pritzker announcing President Trump intends to federalize 300 members of the state's National Guard, posting about the Trump administration. "It is absolutely outrageous and un-American to demand a governor send military troops within our own borders and against our will." The White House telling ABC News the troops are necessary to protect federal officers and assets, and that Trump won't, quote, "turn a blind eye to the lawlessness plaguing American cities."
Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Well, Anini says, we cannot normalize military troops in American cities. Look at this crap, y'all. It looks like a third world country. I told y'all that weeks ago. Okay, beloved, I told y'all that weeks ago. That's exactly what it looks like, a third world country. Okay, nothing but chaos and mayhem. What was Trump thinking? And he's going to war with his own people. Now he's talking about passing the Insurrection Act like this or invoking it. It's all crazy. Okay, absolutely nefarious. Now here's the thing, and then this woman being shot. Now here's my opinion. The woman that they shot up, they said that she was doxing federal agents online. Yeah, that's probably why they shot her. Because I don't think those people were boxing them in. They may have been following them, trying to get, record them or whatever. But at the end of the day, they likely shot that woman for doxing them. Okay? That's what that was, in my opinion. So court rulings, anti-ICE protests, Democrats, what the Trump administration sees as insurrection. Officials say court rulings and protests are part of an insurrection, okay, which Trump's attorneys argued in court that the January 6th attack wasn't. They said that wasn't an insurrection, okay, as they consider invoking the Insurrection Act. So President Donald Trump and his administration have ramped up a specific rhetorical attack on their perceived opponents, casting Democrats and others as fomenting insurrection. Now, Trump and one of his top lieutenants, Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, have used the word to describe a handful of groups and events in recent weeks. Now, court rulings against the administration, protesters in Portland, Oregon, and Los Angeles, violence against immigration officers, liberal groups that they've accused of fomenting violence, and even Democrats themselves. They say this is all the reason they need to invoke the Insurrection Act. Trump and top advisors use the word is significant as he considers invoking the Insurrection Act. Okay, their use of the word, is significant. An 1807 law last used 30 years ago that would allow him to send active duty troops to conduct law enforcement operations such as searches and arrests in American cities. Now, NBC News reported this week that Trump's administration officials have seriously discussed invoking the act. And this is according to 5 people with knowledge of these talks. So there's one prominent recent event, however, the Trump team has long insisted doesn't meet the definition of an insurrection. Okay, the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol that disrupted the certification of Joe Biden's 2020 election victory. Yeah, that wasn't no insurrection, according to Trump and his cronies. So Trump's legal team argued in front of the Supreme Court last year that the day's events weren't an insurrection and that Trump didn't engage in the insurrection himself. But he absolutely did. And now he, ironically, wants to invoke the Insurrection Act. The argument came during an unsuccessful attempt in Colorado to keep Trump off the ballot based on the 14th Amendment, which says no one who engaged in insurrection could hold federal office. And so an insurrection, according to Trump's attorney, needs to be an organized, concerted effort to overthrow the government of the United States through violence. Now, if that's the case, there's no insurrection to see here. Okay? So his own words should be used against him, as far as I'm concerned. Now, Trump has repeatedly downplayed the events of that day over the years, arguing that the 2020 election that he lost was the real insurrection. Okay, saying that he has referred to January the 6th as an insurrection with the caveat that it was caused by Nancy Pelosi, he says, who was the Democratic House Speaker at the time, and also called it a day of love for the standpoint of millions. From the standpoint of millions. This is all egregious. Okay, Measure Man says to show he was lying the next day, the protesters were inflated dinosaurs and other characters protesting and dancing to show media lying too. Let me tell y'all something. Thank you for your insight, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. Let me tell y'all something. Trump played these people so bad. He had them sitting up there and told them to go down to the Capitol and fight, shaking his fist in the air and said, I'll be right behind you. But like I told you all, they headed to the Capitol. Trump got in his entourage, got in the car, and they all went the opposite direction. Okay, Trump didn't have their backs. Okay, it was all lies and BS. So anyway, this week, his eldest son downplayed the 2021 attack on the Capitol as part of justifying the administration's actions and language, saying they want to call someone who took a selfie somewhere within 200 miles of D.C. an insurrectionist on January the 6th, but directly threatening to withhold help from federal law enforcement doing their job. That's insurrection. That's what Donald Trump Jr. said Tuesday on Newsmax. White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson criticized Democratic leaders for ongoing violent riots and lawlessness. I find that interesting. So should I think that Trump is engaging in anything that's lawless? Okay, saying Trump has exercised his lawful authority to protect federal officers and assets. President Trump will not turn a blind eye to the lawlessness plague in American cities. That's what she said in the statement. And if the Democrats' only response to the president rightfully restoring law and order is to keep pointing to January the 6th, they're even more out of touch and broken brained than we realized. Not broken brain. Do y'all hear this? Do y'all hear this? Said broken brained. I mean, this coming from Trump supporters is diabolical. Okay? Walter Olson, a senior fellow at the Cato Institute, a librarian think tank, told NBC News that despite the name, the legal circumstances around the Insurrection Act aren't similar to the legal arguments made surrounding the 2021 attack on the Capitol. Now, that's because the law doesn't hinge on the definition of an insurrection and instead gives the president wide latitude to invoke it. Now, when we argue in court about it, it was It's not mostly going to be about the definition of the word insurrection, he says. Instead, the president is able to invoke the act if he asked to by a governor or legislator if he believes the states are unwilling or unable to enforce constitutional rights, if he believes civil society has broken down to the point that courts need or can't seek justice, or if something is preventing the federal government from enforcing its own laws. This is what Olson said. And not only does the law remove the barriers on using troops, he added, but it is also more powerful than other emergency powers because it lacks a time limit or require congressional review. So this would be a momentous step. It would step much further into using U.S. military against U.S. citizens, Olson says, noting that Trump would be going over the heads of local leaders who are arguing that it's not even necessary. People like Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, okay? Gavin Newsom. Some top Republican lawmakers have expressed concerns about Trump's invoking the Insurrection Act. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told reporters Thursday that he wasn't sure it was even necessary. And Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who has criticized Trump's blanket, or his name might be Senator Thom Tillis, okay, has criticized Trump's blanket pardons of January 6 defendants and isn't running for re-election. He said this week that invoking the act would be an overreach. Okay, saying, I'm not a historian, but I don't believe any reasonable person thinks that was ever the intent for the Insurrection Act. It was about possibly overwhelming our democracy here at this Capitol. This is what Tillis said, although he added that if he were in the administration, he'd be pushing the same envelope. Saying, I don't fault them for attempting it. I just think that that's not a credible argument for me. Okay, so here's how Trump's administration has talked about insurrections in recent months. So in a meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney this week, Trump compared Democrats to insurrectionists while criticizing them for opposing the Republican tax cuts and spending bill that was passed this year. Praising the bill, he recounted that he tried to get it all done in one bill because these Democrats are like insurrectionists, he says. They're so bad for our country. Their policy is so bad for our country. I said, let's see if we can get it all done. In the big, everybody said it's not doable because it's the biggest bill ever. He's talking about the big, beautiful bill. Okay, it's the biggest bill ever passed in the history of our country, and we got it all done, Trump says. Miller has also used the word to describe potential punishments for what he called radical left organizations in this country, okay, that are fomenting violence in an appearance last month on Fox News, days after the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. That's what Miller came out and said. The last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven. These people are so delusional. Do y'all hear this? This is what Stephen Miller said. The last message Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States, insurrection, but we're going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism, that are committing acts of wanton violence. Trump and Miller have also used the word to describe protests in Los Angeles and Portland, which the administration has countered by sending in or trying to send in National Guard troops. They say Los Angeles wouldn't even be there now if I didn't send in the troops very early, because that was a riot. That was an insurrection. That's what Trump said in an interview that he did this month on OANN. Just days earlier, when he was asked in an interview with NBC News whether he was planning to send federal troops to Portland, Trump described the city as a hotbed of insurrection, okay, over the years. Miller repeatedly referred to Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass her pushback against the Trump administration's decision to send troops to the city with similar language, saying this is the rhetoric of insurrection. That's what Miller posted on X in June in response to Bass's holding a news conference with city officials calling on the administration to stop immigration raids. Around that time, he also posted that Democratic rioters are now waging violent insurrection to overturn the election results and continue the invasion. Now, so this is all making me think, this is just my opinion, mind you, but this is all making me think that they've been planning this for some months, and this is why they've been using this inflammatory language. This is why they've been saying that the Democrats, are rioters, or they're waging violent insurrections to overturn and all this election results, and they have a continued invasion. What Stephen Miller is saying, it seems to me that they were planning this out the whole time, that they're going to invoke the Insurrection Act, that they're going to send troops to these different cities, okay, and then do this. So this is something they've been planning, clearly. Now, a month later, he posted that Bass's executive order related to those raids was proof that the city is waging insurrection against the federal government, days after he referred to Bass's call for immigration and customs enforcement officers to simply go home as the language of insurrection. That's what he said that was. Her wanting them to leave and just go home is all about the language of insurrection. Now, Miller has also labeled attacks on law enforcement as insurrection on multiple occasions. Okay, let them tell it everything is an insurrection. Miller has also referred to court rulings, sightings against the administration's position as insurrection. When a judge last week blocked the Trump administration from sending federalized National Guard troops to Portland, Miller posted on X that the ruling was an example of legal insurrection. Legal insurrection. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, not an Oregon judge, okay? Portland and Oregon law enforcement, at the direction of local leaders, have refused to aid ICE officers facing relentless terrorist assaults and threats to life. This is what he wrote. Now, this is an organized terrorist attack on the federal government and its officers, and the deployment of troops is an absolute necessity to defend our personnel, our laws, our government, public order, and the republic itself, he says. And just a few months earlier, Miller responded to a federal judge's issuing a temporary restraining order on immigration officers using people's languages or jobs as pretext for detaining them in Los Angeles' area, a ruling the Supreme Court later blocked, mind you, by calling the order an act of insurrection against the United States and its sovereign people. These people are just doing the absolute most, okay? This is not an insurrection that's going on here. They're just trying to make up excuses, as I said, so they can do what they want to do. D Major said, of course, it's been planned. Project 2025. Exactly. Exactly, beloved. Thank you for your insight into the topic and your contribution to the channel. Peace, love, and blessings. That's exactly what this all is. Okay, them saying that they're not going to kick women out of the military, but they're going to basically make it so strenuous, the training and all of that, that if women can't keep up, well, they just can't keep up. All of that's in Project 2021. Taking away the matriarchy. Okay, now let's hear what Governor Gavin Newsom had to say. Lights up, everyone, please like and share.
The President of the United States and Congress has refused to provide support to those that have been victimized by this arsonist and this devastation. $39 billion for months and months and months. And the President of the United States has said nothing. The Speaker of the House said he's not interested in helping the American people that were devastated, lives torn asunder here in Los Angeles. I mean, where is the accountability in that respect? Where's the spirit that defines the best of this country? To be here for fellow Americans in the time of recovery, uncertainty. It's been months, not a peep from the President of the United States, not a word from Speaker Johnson. They haven't done a damn thing for the thousands of people who lost their homes and whose lives were devastated from this disaster. Not a word from the President of the United States.
Not a word, okay? And don't you all find that interesting? Don't you all find that interesting? Trump hasn't said any darn thing about it. The deadly Palisades fire set maliciously by Florida firebird Jonathan Rendernecht. according to the feds. Let's talk about it. I showed you all this yesterday and told you all that this is the usual suspect. This is who started it. Now, you know, Charlie Kirk would have us all to think that black folk commit most of the arsons in the United States, but in fact, it is white males. Okay? Just like this usual suspect here. A 29-year-old Biden-supporting Uber driver obsessed with images of fire has been charged with setting a blaze that later grew into the Palisades fire, according to authorities as of Wednesday, and this is 9 months after the most destructive wildfire in Los Angeles history erupted. Jonathan Rendernecht, 29, is accused of maliciously sparking a brush fire on January the 1st. That fire was knocked down by Los Angeles Fire Department, but continued to smolder unnoticed underground for days before high winds rekindled it into the raging Palisades Inferno, according to federal prosecutors. The Palisades fire left 12 people dead, destroyed nearly 7,000 homes and businesses, and caused about $150 billion worth of damages. This is absolutely egregious, honey. Okay? Absolutely crazy. So with that all being said, Rendernecht, who lived in the area at some point, allegedly ignited the flames near a popular hiking trail in the hillside of a state park at about 12:12 a.m. on New Year's Day, just moments after dropping off his Uber passengers, according to federal prosecutors. Now, the passengers later recalled Rendernecht appearing agitated and angry. So after arriving at the hiking trail, Rendernecht allegedly filmed the scene on his phone and listened to the rap song Unzer. Okay, this is by a French artist named Josman. Okay, whose music video features him setting a series of blazes, according to the criminal complaint. Now, Google records show that Rendernecht, born in France, had listened to the song 9 times and watched the music video 4 times in the days leading up to the fire. This is according to court papers. Translated lyrics from the French song include, "Daily life is killing me. I feel like I'm nowhere and too much bitterness in my head. I think about the mistakes we made." Now, in the 2018 music video, Josman is seen smoking a blunt in his kitchen, which then sparks a blaze throughout his entire apartment. At another point in the video, Josman is seen lighting a burning barrel outside a housing project, which becomes a huge inferno. The rapper is later captured walking with a handful of blazing banknotes in his hand. So Rendernecht is believed to have watched his fire burn for about a minute before fleeing down the hiking trail, where he made a 3-minute video recording of himself attempting to call 911 several times to report the blaze. Now, as he was on the phone to dispatchers, he typed, "Are you at fault if a fire is lit? If a fire is lit?" Or I think he meant lit, because of your cigarettes. He typed that into Chat GPT. Now, which was also captured in the screen recording. Okay. Rendernecht allegedly drove away from the scene, but turned around to follow the responding fire trucks back to the scene. Okay, where he then watched and recorded several videos as crews battled the inferno, according to the complaint. So based on my training, I'm sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses. Based on my training and experience, arsonists sometimes call 911 to report the fires that they have set, and arsonists sometimes like to watch firefighters respond to fires that they have set, as investigators noted in their charging documents. Now, the videos were among a trove of evidence discovered on Rendernecht's phone in the aftermath of the wildfires, according to authorities. Months before the blaze in July, Rendernecht had ChatGPT. He had generated a grim dystopian image of a burning city, according to the criminal complaint. This guy was really obsessed with this, okay? I want you all to pay attention, because at the end of the day, I find it interesting that he wanted to go back like a serial killer, going back to the scene of the crime, okay? Very interesting. It sounds like he was a whole pyromaniac. What do you all think? That's what it's giving. Okay, it sounds like he was a pyromaniac. And that's basically a person who's obsessed with setting fires. Okay, setting fires to things. and then sitting there just watching it burn. That's what he sounds like, clearly. So anyway, and he's asking Chat GPT these questions. Next to it, a crowd of people running away from the fire leading to the middle. So months later in November, Renderneck told ChatGPT that he had literally burnt a Bible, boasting that he felt amazing and so liberated afterwards. Sounds like a whole demon. Now, the Palisades fire erupted around the same time as the Eatonton fire, which killed 19 people, but authorities haven't yet disclosed a cause for that inferno. Both fires crippled the region for weeks, reducing entire neighborhoods to simple ash. Renderneck was interviewed by investigators shortly after the blaze, but allegedly lied to the investigators about at the time about his location. Well, of course he's going to lie. Of course he's going to lie. Did they expect this man to tell the truth? Okay. Now, during the January 24th interview, Renderneck had told investigators where the fire began, which was information that hadn't yet been made public and that he wouldn't have known if he hadn't witnessed it. Now, he allegedly lied about his location, claiming that he was near the bottom of the hiking trail at the time. This is what the feds say. So during the interview, Renderneck's carotid artery would pulsate and become visible whenever he was asked about the fire, indicating he was extremely anxious. Okay, Senator telling whole lies. Please pay attention. He was nervous as hell. Okay, the accused arsonist also confessed to bringing a lighter up the trail, and investigators later found a green barbecue-style lighter in his car's glove compartment that matched photos taken at his home just days earlier. He was finally arrested in Florida on Tuesday and will now be transferred back to California to stand trial. So records show that Renderneck was registered to vote in Florida, although he never declared a political party. He did, however, donate $2, a dollar days apart on 2 separate occasions in September of 2020 to Joe Biden's 2020 presidential campaign. Do y'all hear this? This weirdo. Renderneck's former Los Angeles neighbors told the Post that the accused fire starter used to live in a third-floor apartment in the villas on Sycamore, just 1 block north of bustling Hollywood Boulevard near the Chinese Theater. They described him as polite, quiet, and someone who mostly kept to himself, leaving them stunned upon learning that he was accused of causing such massive destruction. Isn't it always the quiet ones, though? You know, when you have these serial killers, these mass shooters, these people who set fires and all that, these fire starters, aren't they usually quiet people who keep to themselves? That's because they're whole demons plotting. Okay, they don't have time to be socializing. Now, wow, that's crazy, Peter Cheung, 39, said in disbelief, adding that he used to live across the corridor from Renderneck. He was usually a really nice guy. He was really quiet. I didn't know what he did. He just kept to himself. He didn't seem like an off kid at all. But sometimes when people are really quiet, you have no idea what's going on in their head. That's absolutely true. Okay, that's all I'm saying. So Cheung noted that Renderneck was the only resident in the building with a keypad on their door and mentioned that he drove a normal 4-door car. The new tenant living in Renderneck's old pad said he moved in back in August and still gets mail addressed to the accused firebug. Renderneck, who officials say has no criminal history, faces charges including malicious destruction by means of fire. Okay, the finding that the Palisades fire was intentionally set could allow prosecutors to seek the death penalty. Federal arson charges already carry harsh mandatory minimum sentences that range from 5 to 20 years, but are even stricter if it leads to injury or death. Okay, a detention hearing is scheduled in the U.S. District Court in Orlando, Florida, Thursday morning. So that was today. That was today. All right, so what do y'all think about that? And Trump hadn't said anything about the fire, doesn't want to provide funding, okay, for the people to rebuild. What's really going on here? Mel said quiet and sneaky. Okay. And how much of this money from Doge did Elon Musk take? How much of the money from Doge did he help himself to? I have several questions. Okay, I really, really do. Anyway, with that all being said, so the bottom line is Letitia James has been indicted. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It looks like they really are grasping at straws here. Okay, there is no real serious evidence, in my opinion, that she did anything wrong. Okay, so I doubt they're going to be able to prove it. And like I said, Elizabeth Olsey or UC basically said she didn't want to prosecute it in the first place. And then we have the economy's in the tank thanks to Trump. Then we have him, weaponizing the DOJ, going against political rivals. There's more people going to be indicted thanks to his foolishness. And then we have these American cities looking like war zones. Okay, innocent people being shot. All right, innocent people being shot, children being zip tied, snatched out of their beds, separated from parents, and all kinds of madness going on. People being pepper sprayed. Okay, ICE agents just acting crazy and lawless, as far as I'm concerned, doing the most at the end of the day. And y'all think it's going to get better? It's not. Okay, it's not going to get better. But what I'm waiting on to see is who in the hell is going to stop this man? Okay, who's going to put an end to Trump's reign of terror that is now going on in the United States? Okay, why are the Democrats just sitting idly by while the whole country just goes to hell in a handbasket? Okay. Anyway, with that all being said, everyone please like and share, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. Now, I don't know if I'm coming back this evening. If there's some breaking news, definitely I will be coming back. Okay. Hold on. These people are so nefarious. Let me share this on my account. Hold on, beloveds. Okay, beloveds, I'm just sending stuff to my I'm just sharing stuff on my X account really quick. Now, with that all been said, that all been said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. Listen, everybody needs to be praying and you need to be following your lifelines, okay? Because Trump has weaponized the DOJ and he sent the military, to come at their own people. When he says the enemy from within, and he's talking about Chicago, and I showed you all the video yesterday, it looked like a trailer to a movie, like they're ready to go in and attack people in Chicago. Okay? And now y'all shot somebody 5 to 7 times. That's real crazy and real dangerous. Trump has to be stopped before it gets any worse, okay? And it likely is. More people are going to be injured and hurt, and people are actually going to die, okay? People are actually going to die. All thanks to y'all's president. So anyway, with that all being said, Purplex says, Queen, we should be grateful to be alive next year, the way things are going. We're living in the beginning stage of the apocalypse. Okay. I absolutely believe it. Mel said Jasmine Crockett seems to be the only one on the Democratic side standing up to this man, to this maniac. Right. Jasmine Crockett and Governor Gavin Newsom. Okay, Gavin Newsom has been going in on him too, but the rest of these people are quiet. They're not saying anything. It looks like everybody's just letting Trump have his way. Right. So anyway, we'll see how this all pans out. I'm going to conclude the broadcast. Each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Peace.
With that flavor all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you're done. They show no love for the queen. Why you hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans? I got dreams like King Luther, shed blood like Kunsa. You ain't helping my people, I ain't got nothing to say to ya. I want all the smoke like hookah. Talking reparations, America won't be great until they give us compensation. I'm like, I'm the hottest right now. See a bunch of lames out here trying to jock on my style. They be doing too much. I'm the queen, it's too easy. It's like they all at Popeyes, how they be talking so greasy. I just sit back and laugh while these haters get madder. So nefarious how they don't roll my pockets with cheddar. I tell them they can do better. These snakes in the grass can leave a bite on your ass, cause y'all be trusting too fast. I got my foot on the gas, other one on they necks. Dropping receipts on haters, you better show some respect. I'm never facing regrets, we only facing the threats. Running through every challenge like a relay, break no sweat. It's a cold game, so I got that blanket with me. Now that my people awaken, ain't no going to sleep. I do not play by my piece, this time I'm playing for keeps. You talking slick, but when I see you like them ends, we gon' meet. And I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why they hating on me? Is it cause I'm free and I got Malcolm X in my jeans and I got gold all in my skin, God all in my blood, kings all in my circle. You touch one of mine and you done. They show no love for the queen, why